it always cracks me up because, their egos are quite large. Yes, you're rich, but who cares? Your neighbor's rich too. You know?
Well, I think like Big Sky brings humility out because there's always someone who's wealthier than you, and they probably live next door, and you'd have no idea how much money they have. Like,
Right.
there is that sense where I would say that part of the culture of Big Sky is to not really show off money. It's
I
not.
love that. Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to Realizations. I'm your host, Andrea Gordon, and this is a podcast that I created when there were all those lawsuits between the Department of Justice and the National Association of Realtors, and also all the commission lawsuits. And I got really, really angry at that point in time and thought to myself, I can either stay super angry about all of this and the disrespect that I perceive out in the community, or I can do something. Because what I realized is that we've done a very bad job educating our clientele and the world and everyone about what it is exactly real estates do, what our contributions are to the society that we live in and the culture that we live within. And I thought by having realizations, by bringing people on from all different real estate walks all over the country, and corporation heads, lawyers that specialize in real estate, vendors, city managers, politicians of varying kinds, owners of large real estate companies, I could introduce everybody to the incredible variety of experience that is possible in real estate, and also the incredible requirement to know what you're doing when you're practicing real estate, which is one of the professions. So, very happy today to have Katie Morrison on with me. She's in Big Sky, Montana. She's been licensed for almost 20 years now, and she's a very interesting person because her interests are varied, and she specializes in an area. Big Sky, Montana has about 4,000 people. Am I right, Katie?
That's right. Yeah, pretty small community.
Yeah, but the big thing that happens in Big Sky, Montana is that a ton of people, probably very famous people, etc., buy their second homes there. So she is a second home specialist. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. What's your average price point again?
So median for all of Big Sky is about 2.5 million, but actually once you bring in the private clubs, that we're looking more at $7 or $8 million.
And what are those private clubs? What's involved in a private club? How many acres are they? How many homes are involved? What all is involved in them, and why do people want to be part of them?
So we actually have three separate private clubs within Big Sky. The biggest by the actual like acreage is probably Moonlight Basin, and but that's the one that hasn't been totally developed out as much yet. There's still about 1,000 more front doors to be sold there and to be developed. And for Moonlight Basin, it's much more focused on adventure and conservation, and it's more of a, they consider themselves more of a community than a club, I guess is a better way to phrase that. Yellowstone Club is probably the one that's most well known,
Hmm.
and that actually is its own ski mountain. So it's not just the club, it's not just the clubhouse or a couple amenities like that. It's an entire ski mountain. It's a golf course. It is huge. It's an amazing place, and that's actually where I got my start was back there. And then we also have Spanish Peaks Mountain Club, which is a bit more of like a traditional country club. They have a beautiful golf course. Tom Weiskopf designed, and then they actually just did a par three with Tom's top 10, which is like his favorite par threes that he's designed. And then, and they still have like a ski clubhouse and all of that too. And then within that, like, so within Moonlight and with Spanish Peaks, they both have an individual public amenity, whereas Moonlight Basin just is this year opening up a one and only hotel. And so a very high-end resort that'll be part of Moonlight Basin, but that's kind of the only way that the public can experience that. And then the Montage Hotel, which is in Spanish Peaks. But for both of them, that you need to own property, or all three of them, you need to own property to be part of the club.
Wow. Okay. And is that a very typical way of having property in Montana, or is this an unusual special enclave?
I would say we're a very special enclave. The
Hmm.
median home across Montana is probably closer to three or $400,000. So
Okay.
So this is for Big Sky. We're very much a resort town. We're in Southwest Montana, right outside of Bozeman, and we
Mhm.
also are right outside of Yellowstone National Park. So we're kind of in an interesting zone there. But with our ski mountain here, that really has been what the draw has been for everybody. In addition to now we have four going on five golf courses coming in too. So it's very targeted towards the second home buyer. And then we're also located part of Big Sky is located on the Gallatin River, which is a blue ribbon fly fishery as well. So we actually have tons of recreation here, and it's a big reason why people come out.
And you've told me that you're involved with nonprofits that have to do with the development of parks and things like that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so actually, I used to be the executive director for our nonprofit that basically does parks and trails. We're kind of a unique community in that we cross two counties, and so we actually don't have a city government. We're not actually an official city. So nonprofits and districts are what run our whole town. So it's
Wow.
a really unique place that way. And having, obviously we're a very recreational based area, but especially to have for the community to have these benefits where, to have parks, to have trails, to be able to have a soccer league, to be able to have, like a pickleball
Mhm.
court and to do all of that, that's all of that's very important too. And outside of the clubs, to be able to have a lot of those amenities that we have now. The Big Sky Community Organization is the group that does that.
Very cool. And a few questions here. Are you from Montana? Were you born in Montana?
I am. I'm one of the few. So actually, Montana has just crossed over a million residents, but when I was born, there were far fewer than a million residents.
Oh, 20 years ago, huh?
Right. But my family actually, my dad's the oldest of 10 kids, and nine of them still live in Montana. So we would come back really often. And from the time that we moved to Minnesota until I was able to move back here, I just wanted to be back in Montana. I just love the
Interesting.
mountains, love to ski, grew up horseback riding, just kind of the whole Montana way of life fit better
Hmm.
for me. So I was, yeah, excited that I've been able to make my adult life here.
Well, that's very, very cool. And when you got into real estate, what had your interest been prior to getting into real estate out of curiosity?
So I think like most real estate agents, nothing to do with real estate.
Right, right.
Actually, I love to ski. And so when I moved from Minnesota back out to Montana, my intention was to go to Big Sky and that I just said I'd be here for a year being a ski bum. And
Hmm.
it was actually through that I was working multiple retail jobs and just trying to make a living. And I just realized I really wanted to stay, but I needed to figure something out so that I could actually afford to live here. And
Hmm.
so actually, I got a job as a sales and marketing assistant over at Yellowstone Club. And I thought it was the world's best job ever. I got 3 days off that I could ski. Plus, when I was there, I got to ski. And then eventually they realized I could ski. So I started getting paired up with some of the marketing contacts, like even if it was someone writing an article about the club or whatever. And I just got to go tour them around and have lunch with them. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I get paid to do this.
That's
So
very, very cool. Well,
that
lovely.
ended up being my start.
There you go. And at the end of the day, if you had to say the majority of the properties that you deal with, are they all brand new or are they older? What's the mix of architectural work there?
So pretty much nothing in Big Sky is old. It didn't even become a ski resort till the 70s. So old would be something like from the 90s or early 2000s here. So hard to call
I
any
know.
of it old.
I heard that the 90s were already being considered retro at this
Yes.
point. I'm like, oh boy.
Very
All right.
hipster.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Okay. And what is, do they have arts in Montana where you are? Do they have
Oh, yeah,
any?
we have a wonderful, it's called the Warren Miller Performing Arts Center, and that they bring in some great acts throughout the winter. We
Hmm.
have every Thursday in the summer, they actually do a free concert series, but it's really amazing artists that come through.
Hmm.
So we actually do have quite a bit of that. And then with some of our community, like our Arts Council, and again, the Parks and Trails group actually also does some of this where there's pottery classes and
Hmm.
there's just
Right.
a lot of ways to be involved in that, just more from a typical community aspect.
Would you say that the population is older because these are second homes, or are they millennials? Are they boomers? Or who is it that buys here?
It's an interesting mix. I would say that even though there's kind of like a club atmosphere, I would say, especially like at Moonlight Basin, it ends up being a younger population that, median age is probably in the 40s.
Okay.
Um, and that's still more of a second homeowner.
Hmm.
I mean, it's our school has been growing like crazy, but it's still a small environment and it's, hard to raise a family here. You have to be able to afford to live here to be able to do that. So, working through a lot of that with how do we really help to be able to have people live here and raise their kids and really truly define and help build the community.
Hmm. Hmm.
But at the same time, the majority of people who actually own homes here, I would say that that ends up being people who are more in like their 40s and 50s. I also
Hmm.
sell to a lot of people who are, kind of younger retirees or looking to retire here because they want to remain active. And we have an extremely active community. So to be able
Right.
to come out here and ski and hike and fish and do all of that is really what, is more of what our community is based around.
How much time a week do you allow yourself to still ski and hike and fish and all these things?
As much as I can. I found a lesson that I used to be like, I went through a time frame where I feel like I was just glued to my computer and my phone. I was on a hamster wheel of just, like, oh, I need to work harder and that's the only way I'm going to get ahead. And suddenly I realized that actually, if I'm doing all the things that I love to do, that's really what's going to actually sell property too, because
Right.
really it's lifestyle based. I exercise every day, whether that's going skiing or going for a run or even just going for a little walk or something. I try to get out doing
Hmm.
something every day. And certainly, like, probably go out 2, 3 days a week that I'll get out on the mountain. It's hard because it's not like a typical ski day. I don't go out from 9 to 4 pretty much ever, but I'll definitely go out for a few hours, at least on the weekends and a couple days a week, just trying to get my fill of why we live here.
That's very, very cool. My idea of hell is skiing, to be honest with you. I I've been on ski trips before. I like cross country skiing, but I don't like downhill skiing. It frightens me. And I'll be with friends and I'll end up at the lodge, drinking little toddies, and they're out there.
Like you can be a very good après skier.
All right. Well, so in terms of like I have my senior residential specialist designation because there's such a huge boomer population in our area that I think it's important to understand how we think and how we operate. I'm a very young boomer, but when people are up into their 70s and 80s, sometimes getting one of those designations is a good thing. Have you got any of those sorts of designations? Are you working with any of that kind of clientele?
That's a more rare clientele for me. I'll be honest, the majority, the seniors that I would work with would be people who are, transitioning out of their big sky lifestyle.
Right,
And, and
right.
maybe their kids and grandkids don't ski or don't come out here as often, that tends to be, more of the boomer population that I work with.
Are there timeshare type situations with any of the houses that you deal with? Are there people that are buying fractional shares of homes?
Hardly at all. We actually, in the
I
montage,
see.
you can actually buy within their, like they're in, you can buy quarter shares, but that's really about it. Like we're primarily like, and honestly, like Big Sky compared to most other ski markets has been considered affordable because we do have this big resort that is still growing and we're kind of the ones that are, when everyone's like, oh, I wish I would have invested in Vail or Aspen back in the 70s. That's kind of where Big Sky's at now. And so
Hmm.
you were actually able to get in at a lower price, so we didn't have the need for the fractional ownership.
Great. And when you are seeing all these houses, what have you, are you yourself investing?
Oh yes, as much as I can. Like again, it's we've made the moves that we can to be able to be here.
Hmm.
Um, and so I find it really fascinating and I really love it. And I'm always watching for it. I'm totally like the geek with the Excel spreadsheet. I just don't have the budget to be able to maneuver at the
Right.
market
Although
prices.
I mean, it's so important for realtors to start investing early in their careers. I've always found it to be very smart when young realtors buy themselves a multi-unit building and live in one of the units and rent out the others and eventually hold on to that and then buy their next one and so on. That's always a great way to build wealth. How many of the agents are there up there in Big Sky? Are you one of the few, or is it a large community? How many people?
I would say there's probably about 100 agents, but just like anywhere, there's about 25 that do most of the work. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a
exactly.
it's a
Yeah.
small community, and I think that that's a really important piece is that within our small community and the type of market that we are, we have to work together. They're more like coworkers than competitors
Right.
because, we do a lot of transactions together. I almost always know the person on the other side on a
Right.
personal level.
And what may I ask what company you're with?
I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
That's with the BHH. Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And are they big up there in Big Sky, Montana?
So our Big Sky office is pretty small, but we're a satellite office of a greater, it's called Montana Properties, which is actually, we're always top 30 within the Berkshire Hathaway network. So we're actually a big company within Berkshire Hathaway, but we have offices across Montana.
Got it. Got it. And do you sell anyplace else besides these three club resort areas?
So I sell throughout Big Sky. And so we have without the clubs, there actually is a ton of other, just like outside of the club properties, there's ski and ski out homes up on the mountain. There's a lot of condo developments. There's our whole meadow area, which is where our town is really built with like our hospital and our grocery store and all of that. So
Right,
there's a
right,
lot
right.
to sell there too, as well as in the canyon. So I do sell throughout Big Sky. And then I do some, Ennis is our neighboring town on one side and Bozeman on the other. And so I do somewhat there, but I do try to work with other agents within our company who are just a bit more specialized in those two
Right.
markets. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I refer stuff out all the time because I feel like if you're not like a cab driver wherever you are and know every in and out and the fast routes and what's been going on, in the places that I serve, I know what the inventory has been for the last 20 years. So I know if something recently sold or if it hasn't sold in 10 years or, often I even know who the people are that live there. I'm
right.
constantly having deja vu driving around in Berkeley, and I think that's really important to really, really know your territory so that you can be of great use to your clients. How many do you deal with a lot of famous people? Because there are a lot of famous people that own second homes in Montana.
There are, I'll be honest that I certainly have worked with some famous people, but Big Sky, I feel like because we've been kind of more on like the back end of getting into all of that, it's still Big Sky's kind of like the new up and coming place still in a lot of
Right,
ways,
right,
that it feels a bit more like we have a lot of like famous wealthy people, but not necessarily, that they're really into finance, they're really
right,
into
right,
stuff
right,
like
right,
that. Everyone like Bill Gates has a place here and
right.
Zuckerberg and stuff like that, but that neither of them are my clients.
Very
But
good.
overall, like that, we've seen a lot more of that, and that we're just starting to see a bit more of yeah, kind of like the pop
Yeah,
culture.
I was just wondering because I know here, I'm constantly having to deal with people who think they have to have NDAs and nobody can know who they were that bought the house and what have you. And it always cracks me up because, their egos are quite large. Yes, you're rich, but who cares? Your neighbor's rich too. You know?
Well,
It's
I think like Big Sky brings humility out because there's always someone who's wealthier than you, and they probably live next door, and you'd have no idea how much money they have. Like
right.
there is that sense where I would say that part of the culture of Big Sky is to not really show off money. It's
I
not
love that. Yeah.
type of thing and there are famous people here who will, show up at the farmer's market or show up at some like local event and they'll have their beard grown out and wearing sunglasses or whatever, but like no one cares. Like nobody goes and asks them
Right.
for an autograph. No one, like
Right.
it's not that
Right.
type of place. Like it's more a matter of if we're all here for the right reasons and everyone connects on a community level, then it doesn't really matter how famous somebody is. I think a lot of times people come here to get away from that feeling.
Yeah, for the anonymity
Yeah,
and just to live their lives and not feel like they're in a fishbowl,
exactly.
like they are in the Bay Area.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're just delightful. It is so wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for this wonderful
Yeah.
conversation today. And I think that this gives my viewers a lot of insight into what it's like to work in a community like the one that you're describing. So you have all the choices in the world in front of you. I was at a Tom Ferry seminar. Tom Ferry's a big coach. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all,
Yes.
but I was at a Tom Ferry seminar years and years ago, and my friend Christoph Schuh, who's with Coldwell Banker in Beverly Hills, was there, and he was, talking about how exciting a day it was for him because he had just sold a mansion in Beverly Hills for around $90 million. And I came up to him and I said, "Well, I'm so excited too because I just sold a condo in Oakland for 249,000." And he looked at me and he went, "Well, why don't you move?" And and I don't want to move because I love where I
No,
live.
because you
My
have like your
community. Yeah,
community
I'm
like
I'm
that.
connected. Yeah, when you're connected to the community, it's an important thing to be there. But I'm jokingly telling that story for any of my young agents that are listening. You can pick where you want to be, and as long as you really stabilize yourself and you incorporate yourself into that community and give back to that community and commit to that community. Yes, you're always going to be in competition with people like Katie who've been there for her whole life, but there's room in real estate for everybody everywhere. And if you thought that you would be more successful or happier someplace else other than where you are, you can just move there and do this. You can get licensed in any state in the country. You can make your life whatever you want it to be in real estate.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I can't agree with that more. I just think that I certainly never thought that this would be my career choice or where I would go or what I would be doing. And I didn't come from this type of background, but I feel like I just followed my dream of like, I just want to make a life in Big Sky. And suddenly all the doors opened. And I feel like if, to young agents, like if you just find where it is that you want to go and what you want to do, if you commit to that, you'll figure it out.
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
you're a dream guest. Thank you so very much. If one of my clients or one of my viewers or anybody wants to buy a second home in Big Sky,
Oh,
Montana,
please
how
come
do
see
they
me.
how do they find you? What is all your contact information?
You can find me on my website, katiemorrison.bhhsmt.com or Katie D. Morrison on Instagram.
Awesome sauce. You're lovely. Have a wonderful rest of your day and thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.